Hey guys, welcome to Ready Up episode number 16. My name is Joshua Grouch Davis, and I'm the competitive events manager here at ArenaNet. I got a special episode for you guys today. I've got the king himself, Lord Helseth, is going to be joining me. We're going to be talking about team strategy, rotations, I would say, aka how do I win a Llama Mini in Tournament of Legends 2. And yeah, it should be a pretty interesting episode. I'm really excited to have Helseth on. He's been one of, I would say, our more critical fans, but again, love to have the guy on, talk to him. So we're going to cut over to a split screen here with Mr. Helseth himself and start it off. Thanks for joining us today, sir.
You're very, very, very welcome.
Of course. I heard you almost didn't make it today. You had a run-in with some furniture?
So you get a SMS, right, that says, we're gonna send you your furniture. You have to be there. Be there from 7:30 or 15:30. Like, that's not okay. I have a day I have to take care of. You can't make me sit there the entire day.
So this is IKEA furniture, right?
Yeah, and so it comes at the last minute, and then I have to set it up. And surprise, surprise, I'm not practical. I'm sitting there like battling a single chair for like an hour.
Isn't this Swedish engineering? Like, how do you feel about that?
Nah, I mean, like,
are you proud of that?
I mean, I think it's just like this. Like, the prices are great, the service is great over there, and all that stuff. And that's why, like, you can't be too likable. You have to have something to make people detest you. So they intentionally make it hard to build.
Speaking from experience.
Yes.
All right, man. Let's keep it on track today. So again, we're going to talk about team rotations and team strategy. And we had a couple questions on the forums here. We'll get those towards the end here, but you kind of had some stuff you wanted to talk about right off the bat here to kind of bring people up to speed in PvP and again help them win that that first round in Tournament of Legends 2 and hopefully progress further on. So what do you got for us today?
I honestly, just rotational meta is what I'll call it. Rotational theory, I suppose. Like, once I start discussing it, you guys just go ahead and bring your scribe, take your notepads, open Word, and just start taking notes.
I already took some notes actually when we were talking earlier, so
yeah,
I'm ready.
It'll all be golden. It's the My System of Guild Wars 2 chess reference. So,
will this be in your book? Will this be in your book that's coming out, I'm sure, shortly?
Yeah. Well, problem I've tried. But when I write about myself, I can only write compliments. So I never actually get anywhere with the strategy part.
Terrible problem to have.
Yeah, I enjoy it. So.
All right, so what do you got for us?
Well, basically, a lot of people are wondering about compositions, right? Like, how do I deal with bunker meta? Or how do I deal with thief? Or we have this composition, how do we deal with that composition? I want to try to break down the ideas of some things. Like, you can simplify the theory. Obviously, there's always more advanced steps, but once you have an idea of what you want to do, you can always expand upon it. So, if I have to take an example already, or do you want to get into the questions?
No. Example, please.
All right, cool. So, we take bunker meta, for example. And this can be in all sorts of situations. Let's say, I'm just going to take a random scenario, for example. You're up versus double wire. You're up versus double wire, guardian, and double elementalist. See, this is something a lot of people fear and talk about to me. Like, they ask me all the time on my stream about such compositions. And they're wondering, how do you beat these? And then I watch people play versus them, and the problem is that people try to fight these head on. Let's say they go into the team fight middle, and even if they start getting the stomps, they never actually get anywhere. And then all of a sudden, one of the people they stomped perhaps decaps their close on a respawn. Let's say they stomp an elementalist, and he goes to, let's say, Legacy of Fullfire. So you stomp one on mid, and then he decaps your Cory. What you've done now is lost the trade. Because once a bunker gets to decap, he's going to keep holding it. The same applies to mid. Even though you got one stomp, you're not winning. Which means you have to completely revamp the theory of how you guys are playing versus the bunkers. This would be a perfectly fine situation if you're up versus a DPS comp, because then.
I was gonna say, so I think we've skipped like freshman year courses and we've jumped into like some junior year, senior year here stuff. So Tell me
No,
why.
I'm sorry. This is what I learned before I started the game. All right.
So tell me why, to start off, the Guardian and the double Ellie and the double Warrior comp would be scary to fight against to begin with.
All right, absolutely. So I'm guessing it's because it's simply really hard to bring it down. You have to have a lot of focus fire. They can rest themselves a lot, and they have a lot of reset power in that, let's say you fail to spike someone down, he'll instantly be full health eventually, and then it's going to be hard to kill him again. So you have to be really coordinated to get something off. And moreover, if you guys, let's say you're playing a little squishier. Let's say you're playing with, I'm just going to take something weird, like Triple Thief. Let's say you're playing that, all of a sudden. Then if you guys start tanking, you're not going to be able to heal yourself up in the same way, and you will get whittled down. So that's essentially the danger of facing bunkers, is that they'll just keep out-sustaining you, and once you do a misplay, that's when it's getting really difficult for you, because you don't get that leeway to heal yourself up. Which is why a lot of people find it frustrating to play with those bunkers, but you just have to play with what you got. You got the mobility, you got the burst, and you got all sorts of other tools to deal with it.
Okay, so let's step back up to the junior classes, to our senior year, and I'll let you continue.
All right, so we took the example. What do we do versus bunkers then? Because if we just focus on trying to kill them, and they get to decap our points and all that stuff, then we're losing. Well, what bunkers lack is obvious. They're lacking damage. Damage and mobility, which means you get to pick your fight. If you have 2 bunkers versus 5 bunkers, your 2 bunkers are fine. This means that you can split however you want, and they have to follow you. So let's say you have a Mesmer Thief, like TCG. In that case, these guys don't actually have to worry about staying in the fight and doing the fight. Rather, you can let your bunkers be outnumbered, push your DPSers towards, let's say, far point, and now you're actually the one in the better position. So, you sound lost. Are you taking notes?
No, I'm taking notes. I'm listening intently.
All right.
This is mostly for me. Like, everyone else watching is just coincidence.
They're in the way.
So I've got a question for you on that note then, and let me find it real quick here. This is from Many Song GW2. So if your opponent gets a 3-cap, and your team is just respawning, so you've fully wiped, they've got a 3-cap on you, and you're just respawning, and say you're facing that bunker comp.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, how do you come back from that? Where do you go?
All right, so let's say you're facing that. The first thing, before you even make a strategy at all, you have to consider a lot of things. First, map. Second, what the opponent's class are. So now we know the bunker comp. And most importantly, it's time. And when I say time, I mean points. Because let's say it's Legacy of the Foefire, right? You have 400 points, your opponents have 50 points. In this case, Lord is a viable threat, right? Not only that, but you have all sorts of time of setting up plays however you want. You can calmly stealth and then go wherever you want. On the other hand, if it's a really even game, all of a sudden you're losing time. But let's say you get trip capped after the first fight. So in this point, if you manage to get a good fight after that, you can come back.
So which point do you choose to engage? Are you going for the midpoint? Are you going for home? Are you funneling into far?
Exactly. So this, again, depends also as well on your composition. So name me a composition, any.
Let's go with TCG's composition, and why don't you lay that out for the viewers?
All right, cool. So TCG's composition, there's many ways of doing it. One which does really, really well versus these bunker compositions is to just simply, you send 4 players towards the far point in this case. So let's say it's on quarry, right? As in their point is a quarry. You send 4 of your players except the Mesmer. The Mesmer is the only one staying behind and attacking both the middle and waterfall. What you can do here is when you have your 4 players attacking their far points, the Mesmer can simply go to the middle, put a portal, and then go far as well. Now you have 5 players on far points. But if whoever's on middle tries to disengage it, then that means you can portal back onto mid. The same, of course, applies if you don't have a Mesmer, you have a Thief. You can use the same logic. You simply first send 4 players far, the opponent follows with 4 players far, and your Thief can simply go far as well. And he can also, at the same time, when the slow bunkers try to follow, the Thief can instantly get to, for example, your close point. There's no way the Thief will be followed in that way.
So the main takeaway is, rather than splitting your team up between the different points and trying to fight small skirmishes on each point, you send 5 into far, having either a portal on midpoint or a Thief that can decap the midpoint once whoever was at midpoint from the other team tries to support. So you either outnumber them on the far point, right? or you take advantage of them coming in to try to match your numbers, and then you decap on them.
Yeah,
and that's how you break a 3-cap.
Yeah, simply exactly, because they're overextending themselves. They literally do not have the mobility if they're that slow. If they're slow bunkers, they don't have the mobility to stretch as fast. If they send all of their players to close point, your thief, who's at close point, will get to far point faster than one of the bunkers, because thief is really fast. The same applies to Mesmer with a portal.
And the great the great thing about portal is that when you put it on that midpoint, like whoever's there is guarding that point is going to stare at that portal for like a good 60 seconds, just like they don't want to make that call. Like, do they leave? And then they risk the decap. Like, usually they'll just stand there and stare at it, and then you fight a 4v5 on far.
Exactly. And this also, and if you're playing a composition like TCG, there's another very important factor you have to count in, and that's momentum. And when I'm with momentum is you have so much burst with our composition. We have the Mesmer, who does a lot of damage. We have the Elementalist that stacks a lot of might for us, which means we're getting a lot of damage. And the Elementalist also has decent damage. And then there's also the Thief, which means if we kill 4 of your players, even if you have a bunker on mid, that bunker is going through hell right now. Because we're so if they let themselves die, then that could escalate into a 3-cap for us. And when you're 3-capped as bunkers, on the other hand, it's way harder to get it back because you don't actually have the power. Like I said, what we could do was simply send, let's say, Tage, which is our bunker guardian, and Rom. Tage. Say Tage.
Tage.
He loves that. Trust me.
Teji.
He's gonna spam me on Skype now.
Teji.
Yeah. So we would send both our warrior and guardian. And what do you kill? Warrior and guardian when you have nothing but bunkers. You just don't. And that's one of the main weaknesses of the bunker classes. And that's one of the main advantages of playing Roamer. It's if you force the matchups you want, because they don't have the mobility to pick and choose. And moreover, you got a lot of combat potential and also anti-bunker potential while they don't. This is why I personally think that Roamer compositions are better, even though it's obviously easier to play the bunker composition, and also it's more punishing to play against bunker compositions if you play wrong. But that's why I also recommend to teams, play roaming, because once you do it right, you shouldn't lose to the bunkers.
So I've got 2 questions here, actually, that are relevant to the conversation we're having right now. One of the questions was, outside of your bunker, is there a division of labor on TCG? In other words, do you define specific roles for each player, like far point assaulter, roamer, home point, etc.? Like, does every person know what they should be doing, or do you guys call it out in real time? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, this goes back to me mentioning that thing, which you said was unfortunately too high. But whatever, I'll still mention it. And that's it all depends on what you're facing and how you counter comp it. So let's say again we're facing a team without a thief. Then all of a sudden I'm a farm point roamer because I can go far without a thief harassing me. Mesmer is really good if there's no thief that's on them because they have so many ways of escaping. And I can use that trick which you just mentioned is I go far and put a portal there. The opponent is just going to stare at that portal. His team is going to scream at him, why aren't you helping mid? We're dying. Go mid. He'll go mid, I'll portal and decap them, and then they'll kick him from the team because he just let close get decapped. Happens every time. Every time. Which is, so basically, if they lack roamer, if they lack something that can kill me, then all of a sudden I'm all of a sudden far point assaulter. And Denshi is a close point holder, and Sizer is a team fighter, for example. And we switch it up. All depends on their opponent's composition. For example, I can take a really good example, and that was one of the last ESLs we played, I believe 2-3 weeks ago. We instead of Sizer, we had an engineer called Texby, and we were up versus a Necromancer. And a long time ago, everybody just discarded engineer versus Necromancer because they simply thought that it was too hard of a matchup. Like, you just genuinely felt that the engineer was countered. But if you play around the opponent's composition, if you counterplay it and countercomp it, then all of a sudden it's not that bad. So what we did was all of a sudden, instead, we completely changed my playstyle, and all I did was chase the Necromancer. I just tried to block him out. Whenever he would defend their close points, I would instantly go to the Necromancer and just keep him stalemated there. Because that would mean their one counter to the engineer would be busy. So I would keep him away, and then our engineer would rise a lot in power. And you could see him just completely wrecking the opponents. Mm-hmm. So it's all there's no roles, right? It's all dependent on what the opponent plays, how our opponent plays. Sometimes we do plays that are outright bad, but because we know that our opponent does something, we're playing badly because we know that they'll fall into it. For an example, sending Tage and Ram far, because we know that the opponent is going to send a lot of people to their close points. And we could just let them hold their close points while our DPSers are winning the other points. And then I can even portal them away. And then all of a sudden, I'm changing my role from someone who defends close and teamfights mid to someone who just, well, saves people with portal. It's all dependent, and that's one of the really cool things about the meta right now, is, and in how it's developing, is that people are like trying to come up with new ways to deal with specific teams, specific players even.
So, on that note, before we got on here, you said that the meta in EU was not yet established, and that each team at the top level is running a different composition.
Yeah.
So how, like, where are we headed towards? Like, is there going to be like an actual meta comp that evolves in EU, or what do you think?
I think what I think is really cool right now is I think there's comps that are really, really strong versus certain things, but they're really weak versus other things. Which is very different from, for example, back when Cheese Mode was doing really well with our many warriors. Like, it changed, because at that point, that was really the only composition you wanted to play. But now it's completely changed to the point where, take TCG's composition right now. I shouldn't be saying this, because I'm gonna get flamed by my team for actually helping the opponents, but
right.
if you guys are up versus us round 1 and want that Llama, then, for example, if you run Double Thief, just to make my life hell, because Double Thief is really annoying for a Mesmerist, I'm sure you would know. Well, you would get, I guess. So all of a sudden, if you run Double Thief, but on the other hand, if you run Double Thief versus a bunker composition, you're playing really badly. So I can't really pinpoint an exact metagame, because there is no real best comp right now. But I can say, I think that the gameplay as it is right now, people are going into more bunker stuff. Now, whether that's best or not, I can't say. Personally, I don't think it's very good. But we'll see. I mean, people are going to go bunker, TCG will wreck them, and then people are going to go TCG's comp, and it's going to be Glass Cannon again. It's all good.
Right, we saw that a lot on NA, at least, with Apex when they played in the last Tournament of Legends. They had a very bunkery comp with a lot of sustain, and a lot of that, you know, the team that made second place actually kind of copied their comp or used a lot of aspects of it, and were able to do very well. And then we saw a lot in Team Q the following weeks of players running that exact comp.
Yeah.
So I want to touch... Oh, go ahead. I was going to shift gears onto a different question, but if you got something to add, feel free.
Yeah, but that composition that Apex run effectively gets hard countered by TCG composition, because they have no way of dealing with the Mesmer, so we just do what we do. I go far, I put a portal there, the rest of my team focus on just holding the 2 caps, and we're playing 4v5, because their 5th player is never leaving there. When my portal's off cooldown, me and Sizer just swaps place, which means I defend close and mid, and Sizer just forces the 5th player to just constantly go back and stay out of the game. So effectively, we're 1 player up, and we have, and like we said, like I've said, if you have 4 bunkers, you're not going to kill Tage and Rom, supported by Denshi. It's not going to happen. And even if you do down them, you're not going to stomp them. And if you do stomp them, you're still not going to get the point in time before we get there, especially since we're playing effectively 4v5. So, yeah, basically, NA still in the Stone Age.
There it is. EU Space Age meta, right? So when I had the rest of your team on, minus you, a couple weeks ago, right? And one of the things that was expressed is that, let me find the question real quick here. I asked if there was a comp that you guys felt was kind of mandatory for playing on EU right now, or even in NA, or if you would say that new players should be playing whatever their personal preference is. Like, I think Mesmer's really cool. I want to play Mesmer. But then their teammate says, like, hey, I don't think Mesmer's that great right now. You should totally run a Warrior. And when we talked to Ram and Denshi, they said, and Sizer as well, they said, you know, you should definitely play whatever you think is the most fun, because you'll be better at whatever you think is the most fun class to play. Do you think that still applies?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, if you... The thing is, like, a lot of players have actually suffered a lot from this in the scene, that they think one comp is just too strong, and they roll to it, and... they just stick to it forever, and it's also maybe they go on a build that doesn't require too much of their. Let's take an example. If they go on a completely AI-centered build, like there's not that much you can do to cap yourself with it if you compare itself to, let's say, a Mesmer, which means that if you completely spec yourself into that, and then you face people that can still beat you, what do you do at that point? Like, you're playing something you don't enjoy, you're losing with something you don't enjoy, and you're not evolving from it. Like, instead, just play something you have a passion for and make it work. Like,
I mean, there is an exception to this, right? Like, you're not going to run a Bunker Warrior in Four Thieves, right?
a bunker.
In Four Thieves. So you've got key elements to composition, right? And this is more aimed at the players that are coming in who might be, familiar with Overworld and PvE. Like, so you've got your bunker, and he's always going to be like the pillar of your team's composition, right? Like, what would you add in? Like, so you can't run 4 Thieves, you can't run 4 Mesmers, you probably wouldn't want to run 2 Mesmers, 2 Thieves. It just won't work. Like, we talked about assigning names to those roles, but what are those roles really? Like, so you need someone who's tanky, could stand on point, and what else do you need?
Yeah, I guess you can break it down to, there's different kinds, but let's break it down to a bunker. I mean, you mentioned that thing with roles, and I kind of sidestepped the question, so let me do it properly this time. Bunker, roamer, hybrid, and then the two others are optional. It can be a glass cannon, it can be another bunker, it can be a bunker support, right? So you just build yourself around that idea. You need to have someone that can stand on the point. So you got that, and then you need someone who can move between the points. It doesn't have to be a thief. Like, the thief is obviously the most offensive roamer. Like, that, if you want to offensively roam, decap all the time and such, you go with. But on the other hand, Staffeli is also a roamer. It's not as fast, not even close to as fast, but it's a roamer. It has its speed. It has near constant swiftness. It has the fire leap. You can run blink with it, and you can have that defending close points. You can also have that going to far point, and if it gets a decap, it's extremely good at bunkering it. So you have your roamer, you have your bunker, and then you obviously need some damage, like at least some damage. Let's say warrior, and you just build yourself around it. But I think there's so much viable things that aren't being played. That obviously, like when you're talking about like bunker warrior and 4 thieves, I wouldn't recommend that. But like if let's say you have a passion for playing DPS NG, right? Play DPS NG. Like it doesn't matter. You're still gonna lose to me, but you can beat other players with it if you get really good with it. And if you have there's this player, I'm gonna name drop, Bullet Punch. He's played DPS Guardian since Infinity. He's always been playing DPS Guardian, right?
Right.
And he always played it, and he's gotten really good. And now he's playing with 55 HP monks, and he's also been playing in a lot of high level compositions in pugs, and he's doing very well for himself. That can be anyone. The same applies to Sizer. I believe Sizer was one of the first to genuinely start playing with the SD massively when Pistol Whip came in. Like, he stuck to SD and made it work. I will never forgive him for it, but he still did it. And now SD is effectively the meta again. Like, you can make what you want viable. You just have to get a team, and you have to build yourself around it. You counter-comp the opponent and play to your strengths. One of the great things, if you have something that's not as often played, is one, opponents don't get practice versus you. Like, if you go into a tournament with something people aren't used to, they're going to play a lot worse with it. A part of our success in TOL and our dominance was we went in with Ellie with minimal practice versus opponents, which means they didn't really know how to face the Ellie. They had so many bad matchups where they just lost 1v1, where they could have rotated someone else in and all that stuff. There's a definite advantage for tournament play if you're hunting for that cute little llama.
So I'm going to shift gears. I got a question here, a very specific question, and I asked this to you before we started here, before we turned on the show on, rather. A question from Durden. He said, the team fights with my team are generally played by our Condi Necro, Bunker Guardian, Hammer, Axe Warrior, and a DPS Staff Alley. We do generally well, but we can't seem to win against pure DPS teams who burst our members down one by one very quickly. Long story short, do you have any advice on how to win against teams of this kind?
Yeah. First of all, obviously I completely support that people are playing whatever they want, but why is your warrior running Axe though? Kick him.
Trying new things.
Unforgivable. You should never test new things. Stick to the meta. Stick to the exact same.
Forget everything else that we've said.
Okay, but what you guys should do, if you're up versus a DPS comp, I can imagine you guys having trouble. Let's say you're up versus TCG comp, right? So what's happening here is they're out DPSing you before your warrior, for example, can catch up to opponents and do enough damage to whittle them down. That's the thing. When you're playing sustain, you don't win by bursting people down. You win by tanking, getting a hit, and then getting another hit, and then that's enough to kill. Which means it's not enough. Let's say 5v5, people can kite too much. Let's say legacy middle. You know, there's so much you can kite off. There's a guardian who's always going to be on the point, so you don't have to worry about standing on the point. And there's going to be people supporting the player you're chasing and all that stuff, which means it's a bad matchup. It's just not what your composition is played for. But that doesn't mean you have to give up the composition. Rather, you just play around it. Play to your strengths. What your composition is really good at, I can instantly imagine it, would be 3v3s, 2v2s. In these scenarios, you have a lot more strength. Since, let's say you're up versus a Mesmer. Let's say you're up versus a Mesmer and Thief. Probably the bane of your team fights. Because you can't get them down and they just burst you down. On the other hand, if you're facing them in a 2v2 with your Staff Alley and Necromancer, your Staff Alley is going to be on the point. The Mesmer or the Thief is going to have to tank all the AoE. If they get hit by a single Sign of Spite, they're dead. And they can't effectively pressure the Necromancer because he's being supported by the Staff Alley, and eventually you'll outsustain them. You just have to rotate according to what's weak for your opponent and what's strong for you. Try to open your mind. If something doesn't work, then try something new. And just try to make something work. Because there's obviously a lot of good things with Axe. For example, Axe has really strong auto attack. Mm-hmm. That's just and even the offhand skills are it's a lot of pressure, which means if you can somehow get a 3-cap rotation going on and you put your warrior versus a guardian, I'm assuming your warrior is running something relatively DPS-y, that warrior is going to be able to whittle the guardian down. Even if he doesn't win the 1v1, the guardian is going to be very squishy for another player to join in. Or if a team fight starts, the guardian is going to use this, perhaps his elites, perhaps his cooldown, perhaps his shelter, which means you can just burst him down. Or force him off point at the very least, and then you still have an advantage because then the Mesmer is going on the point, and that's what you wanted in the first place. Now you don't actually have to chase him around like a maniac because you're just automatically doing well.
All right, so I've got.
Over your head. I know.
It's done. I'm just gonna go play some Hot Joint after this, and that'll be my rest of my career. So if you had to give one piece of advice for a brand new team coming in for Tournament of Legends, what would it be?
Streams. Watch streams.
Whose stream would you watch, Helseth?
I mean, I think there's a lot of really good streams. Effectively, most of the top tier teams, you can watch them as a boring placeholder for until my team starts streaming. And basically, everybody that's streaming has played this game for a long time now. People have developed their rotations, and even if you're not at the absolute top, you're still playing really well by rotational standards. There's a lot you can learn from just watching streams. And then there is, tournament videos. Mm-hmm. Did you giggle there? No.
No, I did not giggle. This is very serious. Tournament videos. I agree.
Cool. Tournament. So you watch tournament videos and you just watch how people rotate. How did they go at the start? Okay, so they defended their close. Why did they defend close? Maybe it's because the opponent had always opened with stealth at the start, so they wanted to prevent that. You just take notes, take as many notes as possible, watch replays. When you lose, look at your own replays and wonder what did we do, where did we go wrong rotationally. Everybody does mistakes, except us. Everybody does a lot of mistakes, and you could just benefit off them. It's not bad to make mistakes because you could just evolve off them.
All right, so I think it's sound advice. I'm in stream chat constantly on stream, so I definitely feel you there. So we're going to try to keep today's episode fairly short because last one went for an hour and a half, and I think people
that sounds lovely.
Well, I know we could go for 8 hours with you. We could just go on, but we could probably have a couple of volumes. Again, your book series is coming out soon, right? Probably a movie shortly afterwards, probably directed by Michael Bay. Documentary afterwards. Okay.
I'm basically writing a list of positive adjectives about myself. So there's creative, decisive, determined, diligent, diplomatic, discreet, dynamic, easygoing, emotional is pretty whack, I'm scratching that. Energetic, enthusiastic, exuberant, fair-minded, faithful, fearless, forceful, frank, friendly, funny, generous, and I'm just gonna write that down.
He's gonna cut it off there. I think witty was the last one. And
right, cool. So hi.
I'm done. That was anyways, guys, so we're going to wrap it up here. Mr. Helseth coming in with the master's degree level knowledge of a PhD even knowledge of Guild Wars 2. Very much appreciated for that knowledge bomb. I'm going to have to take a nap afterwards. I'm just completely exhausted from just all the stuff I had to soak in over the past 30 minutes or so. It's been awesome. Anyway, so as a reminder, if you guys haven't checked it out, we did announce we're going to be doing a all-star tournament of sorts at Gamescom this year. Oh, and Helseth's gone. Go back to Helseth. Go back to the handsome one. Get back over there. There we go. So we're going to be doing an all-star tournament at Gamescom this year. We'll have more information coming out on that, should be shortly. As a reminder, the signups for Tournament of Legends 2 will be coming out, or will be ending rather, next Monday. So if you haven't signed your team up yet, now is the perfect time to do so. Again, my guest today was Helseth from the Civilized Gentlemen, the winners of Tournament of Legends 1. If you would like to check him out...
twice there?
Sure, go ahead.
First of all, Lord Helseth.
Lord Helseth, my apologies.
Second, we're going by the name of Team Mist now in cooperation with Mistpedia. They've done a lot with the scene, and we want to be repping them because they're just awesome. So that's it. Also, I'm gonna say it. I told you I'd say it. I've got a hamster and it's named Mist. Discuss.
You have a new... I can't see the hamster. Can you...
Right, well,
where is it?
It's sleeping. I'm not gonna force it to get out, but it's adorable. It's like...
I hope everyone will join me. Hamster. I hope everyone joins me in our congratulations of Helseth's new Mesmer. Congratulations on your new hamster.
Did you say Mesmer?
I think I said Helseth. I don't know what word came out. Congratulations, Helseth, on your hamster.
Right.
I think that was what I wanted to say. Anyways, thanks for coming on. So if we wanted to watch your stream that you mentioned before, where would we find you at?
You find me at the Lord Helseth. You should check out the rest of my team as well. Everybody's really helpful. I mean, if you have questions and such, we tend to always answer them. So that's another way of developing your play. There's the Lord Helseth. There's Super Chey. That's SUPERCHEY. That's Denji Stream. I'm so sorry that the name is so horrible there. You don't actually have to check him out. He's pretty worth it. And then there's Sizer Stream, which is Sizer and then a bunch of numbers. I'm not going to remember what those are. Phantom has also joined Team Mist right now. So you can check his stream out. Pretty sure you guys know it, but I'm pretty sure it's just Phantom. Right, you don't even know.
I think it's just...
You think I'm supposed to know my teammates?
I'm just nodding. I'm just nodding. Twitch.tv/Phantom. I'm pretty sure is what the address is. I trust you.
Right,
Anyways,
cool.
Can we find you on Twitter or anything like that, or YouTube? I know you've got a couple guides out for cool kiting locations and a couple of the maps. Where can we find you?
Yeah, how to become a blacksmith. There's YouTube.com/TheLord Helseth. I'm on Twitter, The Lord Helseth. I'm on Facebook, The Lord Helseth. There's a pattern. It's that all of these are...
Yeah,
all of these are,
and then Helseth. Gotcha.
No, it's that all of these are completely neglected and I never update them, but you should still follow them.
Okay, fair enough.
And yeah, that's about it, I think.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks again for coming on, Helseth. Hopefully we can have you again on in the future. Thank you for all of your knowledge. It's been glorious. Anyways, guys...
99% went over their head, but...
Anyways, guys, thanks for watching Ready Up episode 16. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Make sure to tune in next week for Point of Interest. And next Tuesday is the next release for the start of the next season for The Living World. So make sure to tune in for that. We'll see you next time, guys.